Ladies and gentlemen, our final train of the day will be arriving in 15 minutes at the main terminal. We repeat, the train will be arriving in 15 minutes at the main terminal. Please make sure you're there with your ticket, all personal belongings, and all bags that you've brought with you. At the main terminal, we will be boarding in 15 minutes. Thank you.
Saw some of you still trying to figure out where your left and your right is on those baskets full of green stuff. And we also have some baskets that they'll be helping out with, you guys out in the lobby. Man, we are thankful for you, and you have a unique experience because you get to be out there and experience all this without being in this sweaty mess that we're in right now. Because when you sit close, you start to remember and know who wore deodorant this morning. And so everybody's like, doing a little check. Man, I'm thankful for you guys and being a part of this as we look at what does it mean to experience this messy grace. You see, we all show up on the platform with baggage. Now, you've been there at different points in your life. We all have, where we have this stuff and we've heard maybe this story at one point, or maybe we're hearing it for the first time today, where we have these bags. And we're wondering, should I step onto the platform? Should I step out with what I have? Because my bags are pretty messy. And could God ever handle this? You see, the beauty of this is that God loves to go past and be past the doors that we never think to walk through. And I've known this in my own life as well. My parents took me to church, and for many of you guys who have been a part of this community, you know that they loved Jesus, and I was basically agnostic. I thought that there was something out there, but I wasn't really sure. And so I searched and went through all types of world religions and things to try to figure out what is out there, and is there something past this? And well, in the middle of searching and all that, I wondered, is there a God? And if there is a God, why would he ever want to forgive me and help with my baggage and your baggage? And why would that even matter? Does he have to forgive me? Why do I need saving? Why do you and I, in this grand scheme of life, why is it that we need to be made new? You see, I think the reason that we're scared to jump onto the platform with our bags is because for many of us, we're really fearful about opening up and showing what is inside. And you know what? At the end of the day, like that little piece of cloth that you're holding, we're all just old, worn, green coats. You see, there was this woman named Elizabeth, and in 1955, she was doing a lot of spring cleaning, much like you guys have done, and if you haven't started that yet, may the odds be ever in your favor. It's tough, and you go through things, and she's going through her closet looking at stuff, and she finds this jacket that she had worn, and it's worn and tattered, and it's just really messy, and it even has fraying, and it has rips in it, and I don't want to deal with this, and she creates a bag full of stuff, and she eventually tosses the jacket into the big pile of things, and her college-age son comes in, and he's like, "Hey, Mom, can I have that?" And she's like, "You want that? Like, you want that nasty old green jacket? Like, I wasn't even going to donate that. We all have that thing that should have been retired a long time ago, and it didn't. And then, especially if you're married, they just try to retire it for you, and then it starts that argument. And she's going, "Why would you want that? Why would you ever desire that?" He said, "Mom, just give it to me." And so she honors his request and hands him the jacket. And college-age son, runs off into the garage and workspace, and he starts going to work. Now, she has no idea what's happening. She's wondering, what is he doing out there all day long with that old, nasty jacket? That was trash. I was going to throw that away. No one should ever wear that, much less put time and energy into it. He's out there all day, and he eventually comes back in right around dinner time. Says, "Mom, I need a ping pong ball." Well, we got rid of the ping pong table a long time ago. Well, is there one in We'll check the storage closet. We'll see if there's something in there. Go and see in the storage closet. So he runs out there, finds one, brings it back out, and then comes in to eat dinner. She's like, what have you been doing? And if you have kids, especially if they're younger, you know that if they're gone for a long time, trouble is afoot. Like something, the house is going to burn down, something bad is going to happen. And so, but he's college age, and so there must not, well, I take that back. There could be plenty of things that he could be doing. And so she's like, what are you doing out there? And he's like, I'll let you know after dinner. And so goes out there after dinner and does his thing, and then he comes back in and begins to unveil what he's been working on all day long with this old green jacket. Little did Elizabeth know that out there for hours a pop star was being born, one that would have a love affair with a mildly overweight pig, one that would sing a song that was Oscar nominated in a swamp with a banjo. You see, her son Jim made the first iteration of Kermit the Frog. You see, in the very moment that she thought that this was trash, there was no way that this should ever be a part of anything, anywhere, for anyone, much less a college-age young man. What is he doing? But you see, that's the very thing that takes place when we put our trash and our bags and our mess in the hands of the one who, well, makes Kermit. You see, God takes your mess and my mess and turns it into a beautiful message. And it started with this man, this person named Jesus. Now, a lot is known of Jesus. A lot of people, whether they have faith or don't have faith, have studied and gone through, and archaeologists and scientists and everyone have looked at the life of this young son of a Jewish carpenter. You see, he wasn't known for a whole lot in the early parts of his life, other than a handful of people that heard the murmur, heard the whispers of, this could be the one that we've known about. The one that is supposed to take away the sins of the world, that's supposed to make everybody new. Maybe you've heard that story around Christmas time, amidst the presents and the tree and the arguments and the eggnog, that there was this baby named Jesus that entered the world. And he grew up. He didn't stay 8-pound, 6-ounce baby Jesus, no matter what Ricky Bobby says. You see, he grew up and he started living this life that was absolutely beautiful. And he started turning everything on its head. That's why we have this upside down globe on our sign. Because when Jesus encounters the world, it turns it upside down. And the religious leaders, the people that were supposed to be the ones that led them and guided them, they hated it. They were like, this is ridiculous. We need to kill this guy because he's ruining our perfect rule and regulation system. You see, Jesus didn't want to have any part of that either. See, if you've looked at church and thought there are a bunch of hypocrites who have a lot of rules, Jesus and us were right there with you. You see, we're all hypocrites in the church. It just happens to be that those who follow Jesus are forgiven. We mess up. We make mistakes. Ask my wife and kids. And so Jesus enters the scene. It terrifies the religious leaders, and they go, you know what? We're going to kill this guy. And they finally set the plan. They arrest him. A friend betrays him. So if you've ever been betrayed, and you feel like, Jason, you don't understand, Jesus understands. And I could venture to say that in my life, I understand too what it means to be betrayed and hurt. And his friend sells him out and he's arrested. And now there are multiple illegal trials that happened under the cover of night to convict Jesus of what he said all along. I am the Son of God. And then they go and they beat him within an inch of his life. This scene so brutal that many people who saw even a depiction in the theaters during the Passion of the Christ were said that they couldn't sit through it as they watched it happen. And they walked him up this place, this hill called Golgotha, which means the place of the skull. And they march him up there onto this crossbeam, and they put the nails, even though it says in his hands, they said that this portion, the lower wrist, was part of the hand. And the Romans were perfectionists in making sure that people were executed. And so they would put it right there through the wrist to make sure that it wouldn't rip. And then they would put the feet folded over and drive railroad spike nails into the feet. And he would eventually die of suffocation, pulling himself up and down till he could breathe no more. And this is what it shares. If you have a Bible, you could turn over there in Luke 23. If not, that's okay. It'll be here on the screens. We also, after service, if you want to pick up a Bible in the lobby, you can. But in Luke 23, it shares this. It was about noon, and darkness came over the whole land until 3 p.m. For the sun stopped shining, and the curtain of the temple was torn in two. And Jesus, after he had been mocked and spit on, and a crown of thorns shoved into his head, not like we would think about a rose bush. I know you have used those and hit that, and you've said words you don't want me to repeat. I'm talking huge thorns. After all these things, being nailed to this old wooden tree, with a loud voice, he cried out to God in the heavens, Father, into your hands I commit my spirit. When he said this, he breathed his last in the centurion, the one who had stuck a spear in his side, the one who wanted to make sure that he was dead. Seeing what happened, praised God and said, surely this was a righteous man. You see, and they put Jesus after he had died, and they wrapped him up, and they put him into a tomb, and they put a huge boulder, one that could not just be moved by a couple of guys, and sealed it with the king's seal, and wanted to make sure that no one could have any doubts that this man was indeed dead. You see, because they were perfectionists on this, and many people have tried to disprove that this even took place, there's a fascinating book by a man named Lee Strobel called The Case for Christ. And he basically set out to disprove that this ever took place. And in the process ended up becoming a believer and following God, because he goes, wow, there's something to this story of the cross. Gave his life to God in the process. But Jesus did conquer death, and you might not be there yet where you believe that, and we understand that, and you get a pass here on this Easter Sunday, but here as a church, we believe that Jesus conquered death. And then people started seeing him. Appearances, sometimes crowds as large as hundreds, sometimes as small as just a few. And there were two guys that were walking down a road that had followed Jesus and were actually just angry and hurt. They go, this Jesus guy said that he was going to save the world. Where is he? They hadn't heard anything about other than he had died and been put in a grave. And so they're walking down this road to this place called Emmaus. And as they're walking down this road, Jesus actually appears to them and says, hey, what you guys talking about? Like the guy from Mr. Deeds, very sneaky. Pops right in. And he goes, hey, what are you guys talking about? Well, haven't you heard? Where have you been? It would be like people asking, hey, what happened in the election? And you go, unless you're that one guy that avoided everything. And they go, haven't you heard that our Jesus, this prophet, he went and he was killed, and he said that he was going to rise from the dead, but he hasn't, and we don't know what happened. And so he kind of pushes back a little bit with them, and they eventually invite him in, and they have a meal when they reach their destination. And over in the next chapter, it shares this. When he was at the table with them, he took bread and gave it and broke it, began to give it to them, and their eyes were open, and they recognized him, and then poof, he disappeared from their sight. And they asked each other, were not our hearts burning within us while he talked with us on the road and opened up the scriptures to us? They said, listen, the power of this Jesus, this movement is absolutely wonderful. He has risen from the dead. He did what he said he would do. That this isn't going to be some earthly kingdom, but a beautiful, eternal one where you and I get second chances. And messy grace after messy grace gets wiped across humanity. And what I want you to know is that messy grace is here for you. It is right in front of you, and I don't want you to miss it. Because so many times our bags and our green coats that we think that nobody could ever do anything with that we could never be redeemed. We could never be made new, get a second chance, get a mulligan at life. And we go, you know what, I'm just going to settle for the old green coat. And we get absolutely blinded to what God can do, and I don't want us to miss it. See, around our house, we get to watch lots of movies, some of which don't involve explosions because I have 3 daughters. And so we've had this movie that we've been watching on repeat. Daddy Tolls. Daddy Tolls is Trolls, if you can't understand that. And it's been playing non-stop. You can pray for us. In this movie, there's 2 characters in particular, Branch and Poppy. Branch has had a hard life. Branch doesn't believe at all in grace and redemption and love. He has decided a long time ago that he's just going to settle for what's happened in life. And then Poppy wants to save their people, the trolls. And so she convinces this just bitter, angry, won't sing, won't hug guy along. And he just goes along because he doesn't want her to die. He has a little bit of a heart, but not a lot. He's just settled for what can be. But eventually she realizes after they've all been captured that she thinks they're going to meet their death. And she feels like she's failed everyone. No more songs, no more hugs. Nothing. And for some of us, we've been there, and we need someone to help us uncover our eyes and see what we're missing and what is truly inside of us. Check this out.
You with the sad eyes, don't be discouraged. Oh, I realize it's hard to take courage in a world full of people. You can lose sight of it all. The darkness inside you can make you feel so small. See your true colors shining through. I see your true colors, and that's why I love you.
You know, for many of us, we need someone to come alongside us. We need someone to tell us that our messy bags are not going to blind us to the beauty that God has for us. It's somebody told you along the way that you are worthless, that you are no good, that the shame that you live in is the shame that you will always live in. The regret and the hurt and the pain will always be there, will always take place, and that you can never be made new. You'll just have to deal with it. Life's tough. Just move on. And God sent Jesus to tell each and every one of us by his life, his sacrifice, and redemption that you and I can be made new. That we have second chances, that not only did he conquer death, but that you can conquer through the cross all of your hurt and shame. But you see, messy bags try to let us know that there is no way that we could ever find healing from the hurt. And I want you to know that you don't need to be convinced of that, because I can tell you firsthand. We could sit here for hours and I could tell you about the hurt and pain and just agony that people have caused to me and that I've caused to others. And approaching God feels like there is no way I should ever do that. God, I'm just an ugly, worn out, ripped up green jacket. God, what can you do with me? But messy grace is for you. And I don't want you at all to be able to miss what God has in store for you. You see, at the end of the day, for all of you guys, for every single one of you, whether you're in middle school or high school, college, or you're grown, or some of y'all, you're real grown. Man, I can't wait till those days. You can sit back. Wherever you find yourself, second chances are for you too. See, my prayer for us, for you guys in the lobby, for us in here, is that we will truly believe that when we watch it all the time, that people get baptized and they go into the water and out and they're made new. And we have shirts and shorts and towels, and the only thing missing is you. That you say, you know what? I believe that that's true. And I don't know all the ins and outs, but I don't want to remain an ugly green coat. I want to take the stuff out of my bags and hand it over to the one. Well, my prayer is that you would do that and believe that the one who sees your mess can turn it into a beautiful message if you would just accept it.
And so here you are at the very same place that so many people have been at before. And I remember it too, standing on the platform at this train station of life, knowing I have to make a choice. Do I get on board the train with all of these bags and I don't feel like I can measure up? Or do I just stay on the platform and deal with my mess? And the reality was that I couldn't do it alone. And there were people that came alongside me, that have come along others, that come along in this church to let you know, me too. That we all have a mess, but there is a one named Jesus who came to take our messes and turn them into a beautiful message if we would just simply get on board the train. Now I know that's easier said than done. But today you have a choice to trust in the one who can take your mess and turn it into a beautiful message, or keep doing what you've always done and keep handling the mess alone. What will you do?
Ladies and gentlemen, the train is now boarding. Ladies and gentlemen, we repeat, the train is now boarding. Please get all of your belongings and your baggage and board the train at the main terminal. And you, what are you going to do?